Have you ever wondered where some of the most precious African artifacts reside today? In the vast continent of Africa, a rich tapestry of diverse cultures, histories, and civilizations has been woven over centuries. Each nation, each tribe has its unique story to tell, and for thousands of years these stories have been etched in stone, molded in clay, and sculpted in bronze. These artifacts, these tangible pieces of history, hold immense cultural significance, linking the present to a past that is both vibrant and complex. Yet, many of these treasured artifacts are no longer in the lands where they were created. They've been whisked away, secreted off to foreign shores under the veil of colonial rule and illicit trade. From the intricate brass plaques of the Benin Kingdom to the sacred masks of the Yoruba people, priceless pieces of African heritage have been scattered across the globe, housed in museums, private collections, and even auction houses. These aren't just objects of art or antiquity, they are symbols of identity, embodiments of cultural heritage and historical narratives that have been torn from their roots. Their absence leaves a void in the fabric of African culture, a missing link in the chain of historical continuity. But where are these stolen treasures now? How did they find their way out of Africa, and what stories do they tell in their new homes? The answers to these questions are as complex as the artifacts themselves, intertwined with tales of power, exploitation, and the relentless quest for knowledge and possession. These treasures carry the weight of a continent's history, a history marred by colonization and the theft of cultural heritage. Yet they also hold the potential for reconciliation, for the righting of historical wrongs, and for the reclamation of stolen identities. As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll uncover the journey of these stolen treasures, revealing their current locations. Together, we'll trace the paths they've tread, from their origins in the heart of Africa to the distant corners of the globe where they now reside. To understand the magnitude of this issue, we need to journey back in time. Let's embark on a voyage through the grand theft timeline, straddling centuries of history and continents. Our timeline commences in the late 15th century, during the Age of Exploration. European powers, such as Portugal and Spain, began to explore Africa, marking the beginning of a dark era of looting and plundering of cultural artifacts. Fast forward to the 17th and 18th centuries, the age of colonization had fully taken root. This period saw an escalation in the theft of African treasures. The infamous Elgin marbles, a collection of classical Greek marble sculptures, were removed from the Parthenon and Acropolis by Lord Elgin, the British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. In the 19th century, the looting intensified. The punitive expedition of 1897 by British forces resulted in the infamous looting of the Benin bronzes. These precious artifacts were taken from the royal palace of the Kingdom of Benin in present-day Nigeria. As we step into the 20th century, the theft of African treasures became more covert but no less insidious. The looting was often masked as archaeological expeditions and research. The Rosetta Stone, discovered in 1799, is a notable example. It was found by French soldiers, but after the defeat of Napoleon, it was seized by British forces and remains in the British Museum to this day. In the 21st century, the illicit trade of African artifacts continues, fueled by the black market and the insatiable appetite of private collectors. The looting has become more sophisticated, often involving smuggling and complex networks of dealers. This timeline paints a picture of centuries-long plunder. But where exactly are these treasures now? Join us as we uncover the stolen treasures' new homes in our next segment. You might be surprised to learn that many of Africa's stolen artifacts are now housed in some of the world's most renowned museums. They're not tucked away in hidden corners or obscure storage rooms, oh no. They hold pride of place, shining under spotlights admired by millions of visitors each year. Let's take a journey around the globe. First stop, the British Museum in London. Here one can find the magnificent Benin bronzes, a collection of thousands of plaques and sculptures from the Kingdom of Benin, present-day Nigeria. These treasures were looted during the punitive expedition of 1897, a dark chapter in colonial history. Our next destination is the Musée du Quai Branly in Paris, France. This museum is home to an estimated 70,000 African artifacts, including the exquisite royal throne of the Bamum people of Cameroon. This was taken during a German colonial expedition in the early 20th century. Across the Atlantic, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York houses a vast collection of African art. Among them is the Djenné terracotta, ancient sculptures from Mali with a history that dates back to the 3rd century BC. The presence of these stolen treasures in foreign museums is not without controversy. Critics argue that these artifacts were acquired through violent means, and therefore their possession is a continued act of colonialism. On the other hand, the museums contend that they provide a safe space for these treasures, preserving them for future generations while fostering a global appreciation of African art and culture. But the question remains, who truly owns these artifacts? The museums that have held them for decades, often restoring and studying them, or the countries and cultures they were taken from, who may see these items not just as art, but as vital parts of their heritage? Is it right for these artifacts to remain in foreign lands, or should they be returned to their place of origin? To answer this, we need to delve deeper into the fight for repatriation, a battle that has been raging for decades and shows no signs of abating. But that's a story for another scene. The question of rightful ownership has sparked a global debate. The fight for repatriation, the return of stolen artifacts to their country of origin, is a battle that rages on. It's a complex issue, one that intertwines with questions of cultural heritage, historical memory, and even national identity. Let's delve into the arguments surrounding this issue. On one side, we have those advocating for repatriation, arguing that these artifacts were unlawfully taken and should be returned. They see it as a matter of justice, of righting historical wrongs. These advocates often stress the cultural and educational significance these artifacts hold for the people of their origin countries. On the flip side, opponents of repatriation argue that these artifacts are better preserved and more accessible in Western museums. They contend that these artifacts, now part of global heritage, can reach a wider audience, facilitating a more comprehensive understanding of human history. But amidst this debate, there have been some victories for repatriation. One notable case is the return of the Benin bronzes, looted during the punitive expedition of 1897. After over a century in Western museums, some of these artifacts are finally making their way back to Nigeria. Similarly, Germany has committed to returning hundreds of artifacts to Nigeria, a significant step in the repatriation movement. Yet these are just a few examples amidst a sea of stolen artifacts. Each one has a story, a history that's been disrupted, displaced from its cultural context. The fight for repatriation is more than just a debate over property rights. It's a fight for cultural recognition and historical justice. The repatriation movement faces many challenges, from legal hurdles to logistical issues, but it's a fight that many are willing to undertake. Each returned artifact is a step towards reconciliation, a nod to the importance of cultural heritage, and a recognition of past wrongs. The fight for repatriation continues, but what does the future hold for these stolen treasures? As we move forward, the world watches, hopeful yet uncertain, as the fight for repatriation unfolds. As we stand at the crossroads of history and cultural identity, what does the future hold for these stolen artifacts? One cannot help but wonder about the destiny of these priceless pieces of African history. Will they forever remain in the pristine halls of foreign museums, or will they finally make their way back to the land of their origin, to tell their tales where they truly belong? In the future, we may see a rise in diplomatic efforts and legal battles as the fight for repatriation intensifies. These artifacts are not mere objects, they are chapters of a story, fragments of a heritage that has been fragmented and scattered across the globe. The return of these artifacts could serve as a catalyst for a renaissance of African culture and history, rekindling pride and a sense of identity among the people of this great continent. Imagine the day when children can learn about their ancestors not from pictures in textbooks, but from the very artifacts that were crafted by those ancestors' hands. Alternatively, we could see a shift towards a global sharing of these artifacts. Perhaps they could be loaned to museums around the world, allowing everyone to appreciate the richness of African history while still acknowledging the rightful ownership of these treasures. However, no matter what the future holds, it is crucial that the true story of these stolen artifacts is never forgotten. The theft, the displacement, the struggle for their return, all these aspects are part of their story and the story of Africa. The future of these artifacts is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The fight for their return is more than just a fight for objects. It's a fight for justice, for recognition, and for the rightful restoration of a stolen history. The journey of these artifacts is not just a tale of theft, but a testament to Africa's rich history and the ongoing fight to reclaim it.